Monster Synthesis Master. Chapter 291. The three treasures of security are on fire. Hey, look! There's a black shadow in the surveillance camera. The cameraman pointed at one of the surveillance cameras. Nicole immediately placed her index finger on her lips and made a shush gesture, indicating for the screen to switch to the closed-circuit television with a black shadow. She then picked up the microphone and began to broadcast. Hello, everyone. This is Nicole's late-night live broadcast. When everyone saw this, they would definitely find it strange. What kind of live broadcast was this? Then I can tell you that I am now in the underground monitoring room of Kylan Hall. The image you are seeing is the backyard situation captured by Kylan Hall's closed-circuit television. The cameraman also understood and immediately aimed at Nicole. After that, he circled the room and confirmed that it was in the underground surveillance room. Today, we learned that someone would sneak into the backyard of Kylan Hall at night, so we're doing an exclusive live broadcast of this matter. The Shandu TV station only reported the incident in a neutral manner and did not involve any stance. At the same time, we'll only broadcast the CCTV footage in the basement and won't interfere with anything that happens in the backyard. As usual, Nicole also issued a disclaimer. The station head, who was sitting on the bed and watching a program, was so surprised that his eyes almost fell out. Previously, Nicole had said that there was some big news that needed to be broadcast live. He felt that if it was related to Kylan Hall and Link, there would definitely be ratings. However, he did not expect Nicole to bring him such a big surprise. Oh my god, this is such a big surprise. This can actually be made into a live broadcast. The station head had 30 years of experience, but he never thought that gang disputes could be shown in this form of live broadcast. The station head could already smell the signs of the late-night channel going viral. Tonight, no one in the entire capital could sleep. The station head was watching the show while calling the TV station. Quick, increase the late-night channel's priority and put rolling subtitles under the other channels. The station head's eyes lit up. Today's live broadcast would definitely cause an explosion in the entire Sand City. I have to say, Link is really a live-stream genius. The first time was when Xiong made a breakthrough and live-streamed when he was recruiting subordinates, which created a new genre of shows. If this guy wasn't the boss of Kylan Hall, I really want to poach him at a high price and make him a legendary producer. It was a pity that Lin Ke did not hear the director's praise. Otherwise, he would have thought of working with the director on a few programs. The spies sent by the forces quickly bypassed the front yard and entered the backyard. The bright lights turned dark. When Old Crane was building the backyard of White Crane Hall, he had spent a lot of time and effort to purchase night vision monitors in hidden locations. Unfortunately, all of this ended up in Link's hands. The live broadcast was still very clear, and the infiltrators' every move was captured on the screen and transmitted to the TV live through the signal. Infiltrators usually did not equip their mobile phones when they were on the move. Whether it was a vibrating or ringing phone, or even the light emitted after a silent message was sent, it was very likely to expose themselves and cause the mission to fail. Therefore, the infiltrators would usually contact the higher UPS through public phone booths or the phones outside where the equipment was placed after they completed their missions and left the scene. Lin Ke sat in his room and turned on the television to watch the live broadcast. The feeling of watching the security camera in his backyard from the TV was really strange. The infiltrator didn't know that his every move had been captured by the hidden camera and was broadcast live to the entire Sand City. The mission this time was to find the so-called manager in the backyard. The 7th spy team of the Kylan Hall had already sent the news to their respective forces. Almost all the big forces in the Sand City knew that after the three deacons left, Link had found another supervisor with a more distinct and intense style to take charge of the Kylan Hall's external business matters. This made many people very unhappy. Link was born as a slave. How could he be so lucky to get good cards every time? The three deacons who had split up showed their talents in the new force and received high positions and respect. The Freemasonry's industry was thriving under the control of Forbes. After a month of being in charge, its profits increased by 15%, which made the red-robed cardinal of the Freemasonry overjoyed. He repeatedly exclaimed that Forbes was a lucky star. Dasaki, Alan, who had just joined, was originally the one with the lowest evaluation among the three, but now he was gradually emerging. Not only was he extremely powerful, but he also had an amazing understanding of the wizard techniques of Dasaki. He was a forthright person and easily got along with the members of Dasaki. Recently, he had a faint trend of becoming the future successor of Dasaki. The last one was the original think tank of the Link Gang, the third brother, Mr. Kong. It was reported that after joining the Secret Alliance, he was quickly promoted to a core member. Although he was the most low-key among the three who had left, his identity as White Paper fan made him the focus of attention. Basically, the outside world believed that Mr. Kong was involved in any of the recent key decisions of the Secret Alliance. These three people were doing very well in the other three great forces. However, not only did their collapse not destroy Kylan Hall, but they had also been rising even more recently. Even the leader of the water transport gang, Green Dragon, was no longer as famous as Link. But now, a mysterious supervisor had appeared in Kylan Hall. His actions and operations were all unexpected and effective. This also drew the attention of the outside world. It was possible that Link was worried that the situation of someone being lured away by other forces would happen again, so he didn't let the manager show his face. These forces simply sent people to infiltrate the Kylan Hall's backyard to investigate and get in touch with this supervisor to see if there was a chance to instigate a rebellion. With such a big background, many forces sent out infiltrators. But now, when they accidentally saw the live broadcast on the late-night channel, all the leaders of the forces went blank. The infiltration plan was exposed and even broadcasted live. Damn it, what is Link trying to do? He's actually broadcasting the entire process. The leaders of these organizations were all helpless because the infiltrators they sent out were not equipped with any instant communication devices for safety reasons, so there was no way to stop them now. Although the whole process was live-streamed, the infiltrators all hid their identities. Even if they were killed, it wouldn't affect the organization's reputation, the organization leaders comforted themselves. However, the next second, moving vines appeared on the television screen, tightly binding the infiltrator. Round spiders sprayed sticky spider webs to restrict the infiltrator's movements, and a swarm of bees appeared and directly shot many poisonous needles at the infiltrator. The infiltrator, who was still alive and kicking just now, immediately fell to the ground unconscious. It seemed like he had been completely subdued. For a moment, everyone who was watching the live broadcast was stunned. There were no humans, only some insects, but they were able to control the infiltrators sent by the factions. What the hell were these insects? At the same time, Nicole received a text message from Link, introducing the 3 treasures of security. I've just received a message. It turns out that these insects are specially cultivated by the Kylan Hall. They're called the 3 treasures of security, and they're made up of hornet, round spiders, and vines. These insects can be used to regulate the environment, but at critical moments, they can use their special abilities to fight against intruders and protect the mansion and courtyard. Chapter 292 Livestream with Goods. The audience watching the live broadcast on TV were all dumbfounded. The human-like hamster was already interesting enough, and now Link had even created a bug to guard the house. The infiltrators sent by the forces to Kylan Hall must be the best, but they had been subdued by the insect army before they had investigated anything. This unexpected outcome stunned everyone and broke the inherent impression in people's hearts. What? Insects can also act as a security force. Oh my god, I think this infiltrator's skills are not bad. He must be one of the best in the organization, but he was so easily subdued by insects. I wonder which faction this infiltrator belongs to. If he's exposed, he'll lose all his face. The whole family was sitting and discussing while watching TV at home. They even brought some peanuts and melon seeds. She had never seen such an interesting live stream before, so it was quite attractive. The people who gathered in public places like bars and casinos, when they saw that it was in the mood, all ordered edamame and peanut snacks, along with malt beer. They ate in groups of 3 or 5, and it was better to eat it with the live broadcast. Coming, coming, another one is coming. When the black figure appeared on the live broadcast screen again, the audience in front of the TV was excited. The audience naturally felt a sense of anticipation. They wanted to see if the infiltrator could withstand the attacks of the 3 treasures. The new infiltrator entered in the same way as the previous one, entering the backyard and searching every door. Today, all the other pets had been ordered by Link to hide in the zoo obediently. Only the King Kong and the macaw, Link, had other arrangements and could move around in the backyard. King Kong's job was to bring back the unconscious infiltrators who failed to infiltrate and lock them up, then clean up the battlefield. The macaw was very eloquent and was sent to the basement to assist Nicole in recording the show. It had to reveal the upcoming sales of the low-configuration household version of the 3 treasures of security at the appropriate time to create a market atmosphere. In the basement, the macaw sat on the chair and spoke with confidence. Another one who came to die. It's not that I'm saying this, but just by looking at the action of climbing over the wall, this infiltrator is not professional. He's most likely from some low-tier power and can't afford to hire a powerful infiltrator. An infiltrator of this level would not even last 2 minutes in front of the 3 treasures' security guards before being killed. After the macaw finished speaking, it jumped down from the chair and said, "I'm sorry, I drank too much water just now. I need to go to the toilet." Not long after the macaw left, the infiltrator crossed the wall and stepped on the soil. The vines hidden in the soil suddenly grew wildly and wrapped around the intruder's legs. The circular spiders in the corners, bushes, and nearby trees spat out super sticky spider webs, which were sticky and white, and shot the intruder all over. Finally, the horde of hornets shot out paralyzing poisonous needles. The new infiltrator also frothed at the mouth and fell to the ground, twitching. Immediately after, an agile metal figure appeared. Vajra formed a Buddhist seal and said Amitabha. He picked up the infiltrator and carried him on his shoulder, disappearing in an instant. Hwalala. Accompanied by the sound of the toilet flushing, the macaw came out of the toilet with its coat and let out a breath of relief. When it looked at the CCTV again, the infiltrator had disappeared. It asked, "Hey, where are they? Did I really hit the nail on the head?" The television station staff, including Nicole, were all shocked. Macaw was right. The infiltrator did not even last 2 minutes. This parrot's eyes were sharp and experienced. It was not simple. When the TV viewers saw the macaw's silly appearance, they were shocked and thought of the phrase "great wisdom appears to be slow." The audience had been completely attracted by the live broadcast. Seeing the mysterious infiltrators sent by the various forces being defeated made them feel a sense of superiority. While he was looking forward to the next infiltrator's performance, he was even more curious about which force the previous stupid infiltrator belonged to. To the audience, the images of the big forces and giant creatures that they were familiar with suddenly became comical. They didn't look majestic at all. As for the organization leaders who were sitting in front of the television and watching the live broadcast, the infiltrator in the image had been easily taken away, making them lose face. They were even more worried that the infiltrator's true identity would be exposed, which would affect the prestige of their organization. As for the other infiltrators, they were staring at the TV with locked expressions. What happened to the infiltrator in the image was the biggest problem in history. In the past, the lessons for infiltrators were focused on how to avoid human vision. For animals, they only learned how to avoid conventional animals such as cats and dogs, but they had never learned how to pay attention to vines, sticky spiders, and hornets. Especially in the night, it was even more difficult to avoid. The vines could exist in any grass, bush, forest, or even indoor bonsai. Spiders were even more difficult to guard against, as they could appear in any unexpected place. Bees were even more mobile and could appear from any place in the sky. The three of them were elusive and undetectable. This combination was simply a nightmare for infiltrators. The others watched the live stream for fun. These people, who made a living by sneaking in, were in a terrible fix at the moment, facing the biggest problem of their careers. If they couldn't solve it, the infiltrators that the major forces had raised would probably be disbanded. They hated Link to the core. Why was he live streaming? You're the only one with so much trouble. Did he really have to bring a bottle of weedicide and pesticide when he sneaked into Kylan Hall in the future? Soon, the third and fourth infiltrators appeared on stage, but the results were the same. The originally serious and nervous infiltration was broadcasted to thousands of households through the closed-circuit television in the backyard of Kylan Hall. In particular, there were only images but no sounds, which made some of the actions look even more comical, similar to the silent films of the old era. The macaw spoke with fervor and assurance. If once was good luck and twice was very good luck, then 3 or 4 times to make the infiltrators from different forces suffer, it couldn't be attributed to luck, right? The reliability and strength of the 3 treasures of security had been verified. It's a good idea to use it to guard the house. The boss originally wanted to use it as a personal force to guard the Kylan Hall's backyard. However, I heard that the supervisor has been strongly applying to let the 3 treasures of security enter the market and spread this safe convenience to thousands of households. Because of this, the supervisor has argued with the boss many times. I don't know if he's succeeded or not. The macaw muttered the words that Link had arranged for it to say. As soon as he said that, the eyes of everyone who was watching the show lit up. The dignitaries, ecstatic, thought, we also have the opportunity to have such a reliable security force? Infiltrator, pale-face, thought, F***ck, is Link trying to destroy our jobs? The leaders of the other forces, furious, thought, F***ck, we've been tricked. The reason why Lin K had turned on the live broadcast today was to bring back the goods. Chapter 293 A Legendary Skill. The host, Nicole, finally understood why Link had invited her to do a live broadcast today. As the MC, Nicole immediately put on a surprised expression and asked, "Really? Can the 3 treasures of security really appear on the market?" The macaw's small eyes under the sunglasses immediately revealed this big-breasted girl is very tactful look. It played dumb and said, I'm not sure about that. The boss has to make the final decision. After the 4 infiltrators were killed, no one dared to enter the backyard of Kylan Hall in the second half of the night. After waiting for an hour to no avail, Nicole looked at the time. It was already 3 o'clock in the morning. She decisively stepped forward to finish up the work and ended the live broadcast on the late-night channel. It's so late at night and you have to come to the live broadcast, I'm really ashamed. It's already 3 in the morning. I'll arrange for people to escort you back later. You're too kind, Leader Lin. Tonight's live broadcast has achieved the highest viewership rating since the establishment of the late-night channel. We can't thank you enough. Nicole said excitedly. Today's midnight live broadcast had not only broken the late-night channel's viewership ratings, but it had also broken the viewership ratings of Shadow TV station's programs after midnight for many years. She would be able to receive a generous bonus when she returned. Furthermore, she had once again proven that she was the host of Hot News. After this late-night live broadcast, her fame and status were comparable to the host, Andrew. Both parties exchanged a few pleasantries before Lin K ordered his men to send the people from the television station back. This time, the live broadcast was to everyone's delight. Link had successfully delivered the goods through live streaming, and Nicole had established her position as the #1 female host through live streaming. When he returned to the backyard, Penny the penguin was already waiting on the only way to the small garden. The live stream and promotion have been done. I'll leave the rest to you. The penguin pony smiled confidently. Boss, you've already done so much. The reputation of the 3 treasures of security has been completely spread. Leave the rest to me. Early in the morning. In the newspapers of all sizes in Shandu, the gossip circulating on the streets was about the incident of the invader from Kailan Hall last night. The most discussed topic was the situation of the 3 treasures of security entering the market to sell. Although Shandu was managed by the military in name, the warlord system was only loosely managed. Shandu was filled with spies from all kinds of forces. Big companies had strict protection of their top secrets, while small and medium-sized companies would be stolen by commercial spies or infiltrators very quickly once they had any breakthrough ideas or products. However, with the 3 treasures of security, they could increase the security force at a very low cost. It also prevented commercial spies or infiltrators from approaching the company's secrets as security guards. The eyes of the upper city's rich and powerful people also lit up. With these things, they didn't have to pay a monthly cost and could have high-end security measures. The vines could also decorate the garden, the bees could collect honey and pollinate, and the spiders hiding in the dark could clean up pests. It was a multi-purpose protection. The bosses of the factories were also ecstatic. They had been worried about the security of their factories. On the one hand, they were worried about the cost, and on the other hand, they were worried that the security department would embezzle their goods. However, if they had the 3 treasures of security, they could pay it all in one go for life, and they didn't have to worry about the animals and plants having other thoughts. For a moment, the wealthy class in Shandu were looking forward to the sale of the 3 treasures of security as soon as possible. On the contrary, many people in the slums who relied on them for a living did not want the 3 treasures of security to appear, for fear that it would endanger their jobs. However, even though the debate outside was very heated, the Kailan Hall began to pretend to be deaf and didn't express any opinions. The Penguin's Penny issued a gag order to the 3 deacons and all the members of the Kailan Hall, forbidding them from talking about anything related to the security of the 3 treasures. According to Penny the Penguin's instructions, he let the bullet fly a little longer. The impact of the late-night live stream had not yet been maximized. The urgent need to drive the spread of news and maximize public opinion was the best time to push the 3 treasures of security to the market. The outside world had been looking forward to it for a day, but the Kailan Hall didn't make any moves. However, this cold water not only didn't douse everyone's expectations, but it also pushed public opinion to a new height. Late at night, when Link finished interrogating the invader, he came out of the dungeon with the cat. He suddenly felt that the silence in the backyard was a little unusual. Link stroked the cat's fur and threw it down from his arms. "All right, go and play by yourself." The short hair moved nimbly and quickly disappeared from the backyard. It even meowed once after it disappeared from Link's field of vision. Link quickly returned to the zoo and patted the 3 gargoyle statues in the corner. Their hard stone shells cracked, and the gargoyles returned to normal. They flew in 3 different directions, forming a soundproof barrier. "All right, you can come out now." John walked out from the shadows, holding the short-furred cat that Link had just released. "It seems like your strength has increased again after not seeing you for a few days." Link couldn't deny it. He'd leveled up, but he could detect John not because his anti-detection abilities had improved. Instead, it was because the cat in his arms seemed to be trying to break free after coming out of the dungeon. Ever since the short hair had been synthesized, only John and Link had carried it. Even though John had concealed his aura, the short fur cat could still sense his presence. "You've finished your business." Link sat down on the stone bench. John nodded. "It's done. I'm here to teach you a trick today. The next time we meet, it'll be time to carry out the mission. With this move, and the human skin mask I gave you, no one will be able to guess your identity." John sized up Link and continued, "I see that you're quite accomplished in beast taming and martial arts. I heard that you've even dabbled in the mysterious sequence of professions like the clairvoyant. This move is perfect for you. This move of mine can allow you to imitate your opponent's abilities if one had mastered the corresponding power system, the effect would be stronger than the original. If you don't master the corresponding power system, the power you can exert will be much smaller. John has taught you the legendary skill Mirror Man. Do you want to learn it? Link suddenly found it difficult to breathe. He was dumbfounded. He'd thought that John's skills would be either epic or excellent. He didn't expect to teach Link a legendary skill. From John's description, it could be known that this skill was the Fate version of the minor non-phase method, which could imitate other people's skills and even surpass the original. With this skill and the human-skinned mask, Link wouldn't have to worry about his identity being exposed or his unique skills being recognized. What was there to consider? Link agreed without hesitation. Chapter 294 The Mysterious Manager. The key to this skill is to master the operation mode of the 4 existing superpower systems. As the saying goes, one technique can understand all techniques. As long as you grasp the fundamental operation method, no matter how many changes the skill has, you can perfectly copy it like the person in the mirror. In addition to your understanding of the corresponding power system, you can even display power that surpasses the original. While John was explaining the theory behind the legendary skill Mirror Man to Link, a system notification appeared. John has taught you the legendary skill Man in the Mirror and the theoretical knowledge of the pugilist class. John has taught you the legendary skill Man in the Mirror. He has theoretical knowledge of Esper abilities. Since you've dabbled in both the pugilist and occultism classes, this isn't a big problem. I'll give you an important lesson on the Esper and mechanic classes. The Esper, as a system that relied entirely on talent, could actually be imitated. The Esper, the mechanic, and the mystic might seem unrelated, but there was a hub between the 3, which was the energy contained in each person's body. This type of energy has different situations and names. You can call it aura, position, or spiritual power, but they all have a general name called energy mayflies. John passed on the 4 principles of legendary skills to Link, especially the pioneering idea of using one's own energy to simulate mechanical forces and abilities. Link's eyes lit up. In his previous life, the 4 major power systems had been very distinct. After playing 6 versions, Link had never heard of anyone who could control all 4 power systems by themselves. After John's explanation today, he was completely shocked. Now, try to use the theory I just explained and imitate my skill. As John spoke, 2 balls of flame suddenly appeared on his fists. This was the flaming steel fist that was condensed from the pugilist's power. If it was before, Link would have only noticed when the flames of the fiery steel fist started burning. However, when John exerted force, Link observed his muscles, blood, and aura. At almost the same time, flames condensed on Link's fist. Flaming Steel Fist was the signature skill of a pugilist after they had changed their class to Berserker at level 20. The 2 of them moved out together, and their solid fists smashed together. Flames surged and exploded in all directions, and sparks flew everywhere, like fireworks blooming in the sky. Not bad, continue. John opened his palm and started to gather wind power, forming a fist-sized ball of wind. Link released his own energy. The energy in the air began to gather the wind and condensed into a ball of wind in his palm. John and Link exchanged another wave. The 2 balls of wind collided, forming a whistling whirlwind more than 10 meters tall. It lasted for a few seconds before dissipating. You have mastered the 4 theoretical knowledge of Mirror Man and successfully learned the legendary skill Mirror Man. After learning the skill, Link immediately looked at the legendary skill's introduction. Man in the mirror, within 10 seconds of the target's skill being cast, the target's skill can be copied, only exclusive skills cannot be copied. The strength of the copied skill is linked to the user's energy attribute. Every energy point equals 0.5% increase in damage. Every time it is used, there is an additional energy load. State the next skill's damage will be increased by 25%. Lasts for 1 minute. Cost, 10% energy. Legendary skills did not have levels and did not need to be upgraded. However, the requirements to upgrade the skill were also very demanding. It required the energy value in the attribute. Every 1 point of energy can increase the damage by 0.5%. This skill is a late-stage skill, hehe. Link had 22 energy points now, which meant that the damage of the skill would only be 11% of the original. Link then took a closer look and saw that there was a list behind the skill introduction. In the list, Link's evaluation of the 4 elements was written. This evaluation would affect the skill's damage bonus. Pugilist, Intermediate Mastery, damage bonus 75%. Esper, none, damage bonus 0%. Mechanic Class, none, damage bonus 0%. Mystical Element, Elementary Mastery, damage bonus 50%. Practice well during this period of time. The next time I come, it'll be time for a mission, Ying Luo. John said. When Link looked up, he couldn't find John. Link stared at the form and looked at the blank mastery levels of the Esper and Mechanic classes. He set a goal for this month. It was almost July, and there was only a month left before the mission. During this time, he had to raise his proficiency in the Esper and Mechanic classes. Link wasn't short of experience points for the time being. What he lacked was skills. With the erudite profession and the legendary skill Mirror Man, Link would be able to produce a stronger effect than the original when he mastered all 4 types of superpowers. The real one would not be able to defeat the pirated one. Link had just returned to his study to admire the first orange-colored legendary skill in his skills column. This feeling was extremely satisfying. In the game, there were many players who were extremely lucky to obtain an orange legendary skill. However, that was something for after level 100. Players with legendary skills were all at the top of the universe combat power list, and they were all trenders of the universe era. Just as Link was lamenting, the treasure-hunting mouse suddenly appeared in the study. It crawled up Link's pants and started chirping. Behind him were the 5 rats from the Rat Secret Service Squad, who had a larger body size and had a harder time climbing the stairs. They also stumbled their way to Link. The last bamboo rat that climbed up hurriedly ran over. Its fat and round belly was on the back of the rat in front of it. Suddenly, the 4 rats that had just gotten into line fell down like bowling balls. Their embarrassing appearance made people laugh. Is there another blind person coming to the backyard? You said that the person who came this time is very strong and the security guard, Sanbao, didn't stop him. Link's eyes brightened. It just so happened that he was lacking an enemy to practice on, and now he had found one with good strength. This was really like getting a pillow when you were sleepy. If that's the case, then I'll add a little more mystery. As Link spoke, he took out a holographic human skin mask from the secret compartment and put it on. He modified the facial features and created a new character in a short time. Then, he saved and named the character. Roll 1. After that, Link changed his clothes. When he reappeared in front of the 5 mice, the 5 mice were stunned, and they subconsciously took 2 steps back. If not for the strong bloodline connection of the Zerg, the 5 mice would have rushed up and attacked Link. Link was very satisfied. Even the 5 mice had been fooled by him. Outsiders would definitely not have a problem. Since everyone had guessed that there was a mysterious manager in the Kylan Hall's backyard, Link didn't mind adding a little more mystery to the manager. The 3 gargoyles had not returned to their positions yet, so the sound from within the triangular barrier did not reach the outside world. Facing the 3 treasures security guards who had made many infiltrators suffer yesterday, the masked man easily scattered the insects and did not give them the chance to group up and show off their might. The masked man had just finished dealing with the civilian version of the 3 treasures of security when he saw a person in a hurry walking out of Link's courtyard. It's not Link. The next second, the masked man used his nighttime microcamera to record this person's image, and an idea came to his mind. Could this person be the supervisor? Chapter 295 Link, the God of Cards. According to Team 7's intelligence, ever since the 3 deacons had stolen their pet hamsters and pigs and fled, Link had driven them out. From then on, the deacons could only live in the front yard. However, with the appearance of this manager, Link broke the rules he had set himself. For such a long time, other than the 3 deacons, no one had seen what the supervisor looked like. But today, he saw it. The supervisor that the outside world has been speculating about for 2 weeks has finally been revealed. While the masked man was in charge of the shoot, he followed him to the small house in the backyard. He had seen the failed infiltrators yesterday on the live broadcast. They were in all sorts of sorry states, and he didn't even know if they were dead or alive. If it weren't for his superior's orders, a person with a status like masked man would never personally sneak into Kylan Hall. It's just as I guessed. The supervisor is a middle-aged man. There was a flash of ruthlessness in the masked man's eyes. He remembered that his boss had also praised this manager for his business talent. One had to know that their boss was supercilious and would rarely praise someone so sincerely. The last person to be praised was Link. He had been the leader of the Link gang at the time. In just 2 months, he had become the leader of the Kylan Hall and the youngest and most promising man in the Sand City. Since the boss admires the supervisor so much, then let's just take him back. The masked man was not in a hurry to attack. After all, they were too close to Link's residence. The masked man felt that he could easily defeat Link with his own strength. However, this guy had a lot of annoying pets around him, so it wouldn't be good if there were new problems. Link strolled to one of the villas and pinched the flowers in the yard, patting the leaves. While they were waiting, the vines, spiders, and hornets had already quietly surrounded the garden in the courtyard. Link stretched lazily and yawned. He then stood up and walked towards the door. The masked man's eyes brightened. He silently appeared behind Link, ready to grab him from behind as he opened the door. Squeak! The carved wooden door was pushed open. At the same time, a shadow suddenly appeared behind Link under the moonlight. It was about to chop down. Link quickly took out his magic box pistol, turned around, and started shooting. The masked man grunted and quickly pulled up his black cloak. The bullets landed on the cloak and flickered. The barrage of arrows earlier had taken away nearly 200 HP, and the rest had been blocked by the black cloak. Link could tell that the cloak that could block bullet damage was a good item. The magic box pistol's destructive power was unique among conventional firearms. Other than being inferior to a heavy sniper rifle, it was basically unrivaled. However, these energy-grade bullets were all blocked by the cloak. This cloak was at least an excellent quality treasure. The masked man looked at the supervisor vigilantly, laughing at himself for underestimating the enemy. He subconsciously thought that the supervisor was an ordinary person without the strength to even truss a chicken, but he did not expect this guy to react so quickly. No. Maybe when he was following them, he had already exposed himself and attracted their attention. I didn't expect the Kylan Hall's manager to be so skilled. The masked man probed. Although there was a lot of evidence that pointed to this person being the mysterious manager, the masked man still wanted to confirm it again. Link saw through the masked man's thoughts and admitted, "You're not bad either. At least you're the first person to break through the first line of defense to see me." While they were talking, Link cast a detect spell on the masked man. A level 30 elite had a low HP of 2800. His identity, class, and attributes were all question marks. He had unknown. At level 30 plus, elite, he had basically surpassed the major forces in the slums. Even Link's boss, Azure Dragon, was only a level 28 elite. Similarly, the leaders of the Secret Alliance, the Freemasonry, and Dasaka were around this level. The level 30 elite infiltrator in front of him looked like someone from a higher power who was here to steal information. The uptown nobles, the military, the Platinum Hotel, the United Pharmaceutical Company, Moros, and so on could be more powerful than the gangs in the slums. At this level and HP, there was no sign of any mechanical existence on his body. It could only be a stalker, assassin, esper, or mystic in the pugilist class. The masked man quickly threw 3 darts in a triangular formation. Link reacted quickly and threw 3 daggers in return. The masked man's fingers trembled, as if there was a thread controlling the dart. Link's flying daggers followed suit, using the energy field to control the daggers to spin. In the pitch-black yard, the metal vibrated and rubbed against each other in the air, and the cold wind constantly pierced the eardrums. When the masked man realized that the supervisor had actually used the same move as him, and that his control of hidden weapons was not any weaker than his eyes immediately lit up. He controlled the dart to fly close to the ground, ready to attack the lower 3 paths. Link's lips curled into a faint smile as he swung his dagger at the dart. The clanging sound of metal clashing reverberated in the courtyard. The dart was twisted and deformed, and the flying knife was almost cut into 2 pieces, turning into scrap metal. The fact that he could use hidden weapons and control them to make turns showed that he was pugilist assassin. Assassin was a class change from the basic class, lurker. It was proficient in assassination and poisoning. Since he was a pugilist, Link's intermediate mastery had 75% of simulated damage. With the 11% provided by his energy attribute, he could almost pass off the fake as the real thing. The masked man's brows were tightly furrowed. He believed that the tremors caused by the battle just now would not be able to escape Link. Originally, Link was the only one who could fight in the Kylin Hall. She didn't expect the head to be so domineering in business and strong in combat. They were both assassins, but they weren't at a disadvantage in a dart exchange. If Link arrived later, it would be difficult to escape from the 2-on-1 situation. Thinking of this, the masked man knew that he shouldn't stay here for long. Today, he was able to take a picture of the manager's appearance and also find out the other party's background. In short, this trip was not a loss. The only regret was that he could not capture the supervisor alive. It seems that the manager has a lot of secrets. The masked man sneered and began to move his hands. In the next second, countless playing cards flew up from behind him like a fairy scattering flowers, like the 8 claws of a squid. Lin Ke did not have the habit of carrying poker cards around with him. He stirred up a gust of wind with his energy, causing the leaves to fall from the trees and float around him. The masked man's expression turned cold. It seemed that the other party was certain that he would be defeated and would use the exact same move. The poker cards transformed into sharp blades and flew towards Link at a tricky angle. Link urged the leaves to intercept the cards. The original 86% simulated damage, coupled with the energy load effect on Link, increased the power by 25%. The final 111% damage directly surpassed the original. In an instant, all the cards were blocked, and the remaining leaves continued to attack the masked man. Seeing this, the masked man made a hand seal. At this moment, the vines, spiders, and hornet hiding in the dark rushed to the masked man's side. The spider web and poisonous needles surrounded the masked man as if they were free. "Manager, we'll meet again if fate allows." The masked man ignored all of this. His real body turned into a cloud of black smoke and he flew out of the courtyard. Link took out his magic box pistol and fired the 11th bullet with the additional effect. A bolt of blue lightning appeared in the night sky. The bullet hit the black smoke accurately. The black smoke was surrounded by snake-shaped electric arcs, accompanied by the muffled groan of the masked man. -233. A huge blue number appeared above the black smoke, and Good Face even had a critical hit effect. "I'm sorry I can't see you out." Link stood in the yard and waved at the black smoke with a smile. An infiltrator with such strength wouldn't gain any advantage if he followed. Link had the ability and power to kill his opponent instantly, but his original intention was to test the power of the legendary skill, Man in the Mirror. He also wanted to create an extremely powerful manager image. This way, the Kylin Hall would have Link and the manager, 2 powerful forces, to make other forces fear them. It would also give those who came to the Kylin Hall a warning. During this period, there were assassins, bounty hunters, and infiltrators from various forces who had entered the backyard of Kylin Hall. He really treated this place as a garden. After the masked man escaped the Kylin Hall, he fled to the roof of a residential building in another block. He took off his mask and immediately vomited a mouthful of blood. Damn it, this guy's poisoning ability is actually above mine. The masked man pulled out a leaf from behind his calf and observed it in his hand. The bloodstains on the leaves were slightly black. The toxicity of the leaves was not strong, but they had poisoned him in front of him without him noticing. This meant that his strength was above his. The masked man clenched the leaf tightly in his palm until it turned into powder. If the other party really wanted to kill him, with such a poisoning method that even he himself could not detect, he would have to give him a strong dose of medicine. Although he would not die on the spot, he would definitely suffer a lot. Now, he had only used the most common poison, which was obviously a warning. After the bleeding was stopped, the masked man changed his clothes and burned his nightsuit on the roof, leaving no evidence. After he went downstairs, he stopped a taxi. Go to Morrow's building. When the driver heard the words Morrow's tower, he immediately straightened his back, and the laziness on his face was gone. Awe, envy, worry, and other expressions were all written on his face. Sir, it's my pleasure to serve you. It must be the staff there to go to the Morrow's building so late at night. To be able to work for Morrow's, the big boss of the Sand Capital, he would have both status and face. Half an hour later, the masked man arrived at Morrow's building and went straight to Morrow's office on the top floor. Boss, I've found the manager of Kylin Hall. The masked man inserted the memory card into the TV, and soon, an image appeared on the TV. Late at night, in the Kylin Hall's backyard, a middle-aged man walked out of Link's study courtyard and crossed the backyard to a side courtyard in the distance. The masked man and the manager's battle continued. After Morrow's finished reading, he turned his chair and looked at his subordinates who were standing respectfully in front of him. You're injured. The man was silent for a moment before he unwillingly nodded. Morrow's expression was serious at first, but he soon burst into laughter. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect that the Heavenly King of the Eastern region, Tai, who has gone through all the dangers, would fail in the Kylin Hall. The man in the suit buried his head deeper. As one of the 4 Heavenly Kings under Morrow's, the Heavenly King of the East District, Tai, had always been proud and confident. In the end, he failed to catch her and was beaten away instead. He was suppressed in his field of expertise and now he had a cold face and was in low spirits. Morrow's furrowed his brows and replayed the video. He then executed the man publicly. He paused when the supervisor's face was straight. He looked at her and sighed, I didn't expect this manager to not only have extraordinary business talent, but also have such strong personal strength. He also happens to be an assassin. Morrow's looked at the depressed Tai and said, this time, you just happened to walk into the muzzle of a gun. Moreover, you're used to thinking that people who understand business don't know martial arts, so you're at a disadvantage. You're right, boss. Why are there so many talents around Link? I remember that one of the 3 traders was very good at business. In just 2 weeks, he changed the inherent business model of White Crane Hall and began to reform, rapidly increasing the profits. Now that he's in the Freemasonry, I heard he's doing very well. In a short time, he increased the Freemasonry's income by 15%. He's now treated as a treasure and is in charge of the business sector. The other new member of White Crane Hall is a talent that has been buried by White Crane Hall. With his strength, he can easily become a small leader or a gang leader. In the end, after he went to Dasaki, he discovered his potential and is now being trained to be the next boss of Dasaki. The last one is Mr. Fan Bush from the Jack Gang. Although he doesn't have much information after joining the Hidden Alliance, he has already entered the core of the vampires and become a Viscount. Now that these 3 capable generals have left, the Kylin Hall was on the verge of collapse. In the end, they recruited more than 50 powerful members and now they even got an all-rounder. Morrow's shook his head helplessly. He had been living in the slums of Shadu for many years, but he had only managed to get powerful people like the 4 heavenly kings and Secretary Kohler. In 2 months, Link had been surrounded by talented people. It was really frustrating. He was making a fortune while Link was drawing cards. Morose stood up and finished the whiskey in his glass. He walked to the TV and removed the container. I've learned everything I wanted to know, so Tai, your mission is a success. As for how you feel wronged or unwilling to accept it, I'll give you the authority to deal with this storage device. Morose had an evil smile on his face. The situation was getting more and more interesting, and he did not mind adding fuel to the fire. After all, Tai was his subordinate. He was injured during a mission and was in a bad mood. He had to give him a direction to vent his anger. Tai took the storage device and finally smiled. He asked, "Boss, do you want to come to my theater this weekend to listen to a symphony performance?" "It seems like you've already thought of a solution," Morose laughed. Each of the 4 heavenly kings under him had a particular fetish. Tai's hobby was to listen to symphonies when he was thinking. He could come up with many shocking strategies under the classic music. Chapter 296 The Spread of Power, the King of Slums. Link returned to his study and removed his mask. During the fight with the masked man, both the legendary skill man in the mirror and the human skin mask had shown their amazing effects. No matter what kind of power the masked men were sent by, they would now receive one piece of information: the mysterious manager of Kylan Hall was not only a business strategist, but his personal strength was also no weaker than Link's. Link had successfully created a non-existent person with a skin mask, doubling the power of the Kylan Hall in the eyes of the enemy. Originally, Kylan Hall's deterrence was solely dependent on Link. Once Link left Kylan Hall, there would definitely be spies and infiltrators inside. But now, with the establishment of the personification in charge, on one hand, it could share the pressure with Penny, the Penguin, and let the real supervisor hide in the city. On the other hand, the Kylan Hall would have one more high-end combat force, which would make other forces wary. 2 days later, an explosive piece of news appeared in the newspapers and on television. All kinds of newspapers in Shandu reported on this matter. The headlines were quite explosive and could catch everyone's eyes in an instant. Shock! The mysterious manager of Kylan Hall has been exposed. So, it's him. After reading the newspaper, Link really wanted to bring this editor to Kylan Hall and ask him to write news about the hall in the future. The mysterious manager of the Kylan Hall had always been the topic of gossip in Shandu. People had all kinds of speculations about this, but they didn't expect the newspaper to directly announce his identity. It was a middle-aged man with an extraordinary appearance. The 2 small tufts of mustaches above his lips, his wise and deep eyes, and the appropriate suit made him exude the elegance of a mature man from head to toe. Combined with the director's swift and decisive policies some time ago, the image of a domineering CEO was vividly portrayed on paper. If Link was the dream lover of the young girls in the upper city of the Sand Capital, then the current director was the idol of the middle-aged and elderly women. Other than the newspapers, the Shita TV station's break news also reported on the incident, along with an edited video. The camera angle could be seen with the naked eye as being secretly shot from the corner of the wall. Other than coming out of the courtyard and returning to his room, there was even a battle scene. Link muted the TV after watching it. His brows were furrowed in confusion. If the first half of the video was leaked, it was within Link's expectations. This was also in line with his original plan, which was to use the power of the media to promote the Kylan Hall. However, the second half of the battle video was beyond Link's expectations. The supervisor knew how to fight and was quite strong. This kind of information should be kept as a secret of the force, but the unknown force actually released the battle scene, which was equivalent to publicly saying that there were 2 experts in the Kylan Hall, so you should all be careful in the future. What kind of power was this? They even released such an important piece of information. The other forces became more careful after watching the video. They would not easily send people to the Kylin Hall to cause trouble, which indirectly protected the other forces. Link couldn't help but laugh. She was really sacrificing herself for others. Penny, what do you think of this? Link turned to look at the real manager, who was drinking his coffee, and asked for his opinion. Penny helplessly shrugged his chubby shoulders and said, I only understand business matters, and I'm not good at the open and secret fights between gangs. However, from a business point of view, it was not a loss. It could be understood as the other party had some additional results on top of completing the established task. With these videos, the backyard of Kylin Hall could be said to be really quiet in the future. And boss, you can also use the change in your identity to carry out all kinds of sneaky operations, so that the enemies of other forces don't know where you are, and they don't dare to act rashly. Even a mayfly. Even what? Link quickly asked, seeing that there was a hidden meaning behind Penny's words. Boss, you can even use your position as a supervisor to contact the outside forces and disrupt the current power structure in Shandu. Link fell into deep thought. Penny seemed to be right. With this identity, he could do many things that Link couldn't. He could also come into contact with many things that Link couldn't. Link raised his head and looked at the three attendants, who were sitting in a row with their hands behind their backs like kindergartners. You guys understand the situation, right? You can talk to your subordinates about your supervisor, but you have to look like him in the newspaper. As for the penguin sitting in front of you, it's just an ordinary wild animal, do you understand? Fred, Quentin, and Bob all nodded. Although they didn't understand how their boss was using another face, they knew what to do. Boss, there's one more thing I need to report to you. I'm planning to start selling the 3 treasures of security today. The public opinion has been quite good for the past 2 days, and the entire market is looking forward to it. In addition, my position as the manager has been exposed today, so I want to take advantage of the time when Kylin Hall is at its peak to release it. I believe that once it's released, there will definitely be a lot of people fighting for it and it will continue to increase the popularity. Also, the name 3 Treasures of Security is a little tacky. Since I'm selling them to the Uptown's dignitaries, I've changed the name to a more festive one. I'll call them the 3 Treasures of Fortune. Sure. Link nodded, since you're in charge of the business, you can make the decisions. Link then looked at the 3 deacons and said, the 3 of you, if Penny has any orders, be careful. His orders are my orders. The 3 of them immediately stood up, straightened their backs, and said with a serious expression, yes. As the meeting of the inner court ended, the 3 deacons immediately left Kylin Hall with their tasks. An hour later, the pre-sales of the 3 lucky treasures started without any warning. The pre-sales method was also quite domineering. First, they had to pay the money to register, and then the professionals of the security company would come to help them install it. A set of 3 lucky treasures included 100 hornets' bees, 10 round spiders, and a 3-meter-long vine. In terms of price, Penny's pricing was also quite bold, and there were 2 modes. One was to buy it all at once with 30,000 wasteland coins, excluding after sales. If a creature was killed or injured, it would not be returned, nor would it be replenished. The other was 50,000 wasteland coins, which included permanent after-sales service. If the 3 lucky treasures were lacking individually, as long as they called the security company, they would be the first to supplement it, so that the customer's home security would always maintain 100 points. The news shocked the entire Sand City. The security company's headquarters was located in the commercial street of the slums. It was as crowded as a city, and the queue for reservations was 300 to 400 meters long. The passers-by were amazed. Amazing, amazing! There must be more than 100 people. If we use the 30,000 yuan package, we'll earn 3 million yuan in one afternoon. This is simply a huge profit. In the slums, the shipping gang, the Freemasonry, the Hidden Alliance, and the Dasaka family were 4 major forces. They paled in comparison to the crazy sales of Kylan Hall. Chapter 297 Matthew Wool. The day's pre-sales had not ended yet, and another piece of news once again aroused people's attention to the Kylan Hall. The mysterious manager had bought a storefront in the two lower cities on Binhee Avenue, which was next to his previous property, forming a 4-store chain of Kylan Hall. Ever since Lin K took office, the shops on the Commercial Street and Riverbank Avenue in the buffer zone had been visited by many people. In terms of business, they had a security company, a pig banquet, a pet hamster, and 3 lucky treasures. The Kylan Hall's expansion and development speed far surpassed the other forces in the slums. That night, the third deacon announced the results of the day in the conference room in the backyard. Bob, the security company in charge of sales, read the script with a trembling voice. Today's auspicious 3 treasures pre-sale. There are a total of 117 people who paid and registered, for a total of 4.65 million yuan. Bob had never seen so much cash in his life. He didn't expect the 3 lucky treasures to sell so well that it was even more popular than the pig banquet. Penny the penguin was sitting on a rocking chair, its 2 wings holding a fruit juice, and its expression was extremely indifferent. Calm down, this is just a one-time deal. 117 people can get 4.65 million yuan, which means that most people have chosen the permanent package. You may earn this money today, but you won't be able to earn it next month. Bob thought about it and agreed. If it was a one-time income, it couldn't be compared to the pig banquet. $4 million in revenue. Link's heart skipped a beat when he heard this figure. His eyes followed the river on the map that Link had helped with at the start, all the way east, and finally landed on the easternmost garbage dump in the slums of Shandu. Link whistled, and a whistle arrow shot out from his sleeve. Under Link's control, it flew across the map. Penny, I'll give you a mission next. I need to connect all the shops from the garbage dump to Riverbank Avenue and change their surnames to Lin. Tomorrow, you can go to the junkyard and ask around. If the people in the junkyard are willing to join the Kylan Hall, then it's fine. If they're not willing to support the Kylan Hall's 8 combat squads, then it's time to resort to force to solve the problem. The 3 deacons were caught off guard by Link's sudden acceleration. Ever since Link took over the Kylan Hall, he had always been steady and quick. He had made use of the success of commercialization to push forward little by little. Now that their boss had suddenly resorted to violence, they had almost forgotten that they were members of a gang in the slums, a violent group. The penguin, Pony, was very knowledgeable. Although he didn't know his boss's purpose, it was obviously faster to advance from the east and west. The garbage dump in the slums was originally contracted by a businessman. However, behind the merchants was the shadow of the hidden alliance, which could be considered their outer members. However, recently, it was occupied by a new force of the Matthew Society. Speaking of which, the leader of the Matthew group has some relationship with you, boss. Bob kept him in suspense. Oh? And it's related to me. Link raised an eyebrow. He'd never heard of this Matthews Association. He didn't know where this relationship came from. That's because boss rose to power alone from the slums in the beginning, Bob said with a smile. He grew to become one of the top figures in Chengdu in just a few months. Such a legendary experience has attracted a lot of young people. During this period of time, small organizations and forces have emerged like bamboo shoots after the rain. Among these small organizations and forces, this Matthews Order is one of the most successful ones. Bob walked up to the map and explained to Link, the current Matthew gang, with their leader Matthew's outstanding personal strength, is bold enough to fight and kill, and has already gained a firm foothold in the slums. Other than the junkyard, they also took down the water treatment plant next to it. Bob drew out the range. Link looked at it and was surprised. This Matthew Society was really trying to survive in the cracks. The surrounding secret alliance, Freemasonry, and water transport gang all had territories, but this guy had forcibly snatched food from the tiger's mouth of the secret alliance and seized a piece of territory. They even managed to resist the attack and survive. Is there a chance to rope in such a talent to our side? The Kylan Hall was still lacking high-end combat power. Although Link had created the image of a manager, it was still void combat power. It was fine on paper, but it was not real in reality. If he could recruit Matthew, Link would have one more sharp knife to use. He could also take over the garbage dump and water treatment plant. However, the moment Link finished speaking, the three deacons exchanged glances with one another, their expressions dark. "What's the matter? Is there something you can't tell me?" Bob stammered for a while. Because the speed and trajectory of his rise is very similar to Boss, people gave him the nickname Little Link. However, Matthew has always scoffed at this title. He even said that he wanted to do more than you, Boss. He is also extremely hostile to anyone who calls him Little Link. Link was stunned, but he soon laughed out loud. This young man, he's walking on a narrow road. He was so arrogant even before he became a big shot. He had unknowingly added a lot of enemies to himself. Moreover, with this kind of personality, he would only attract a group of arrogant troublemakers. If they made too many enemies, another problem would soon be highlighted: there were too few high-end combat forces, which limited their expansion. Let's make contact first. If it doesn't work, we'll use force. Link was still prepared to use peaceful means before resorting to force. If the kid didn't know what was good for him, he would send his forces to crush him. The next morning, the van with the Lin Group's security company started and drove to the uptown. For the home installation service of the auspicious three treasures, the staff had also undergone professional training in advance. The placement of beehives, round spiders, and vines were all very particular. A reasonable placement would not affect the structure of the villa, but it could play a good role in security. After the synthesis was successful, Link had also imposed wool on the insects. Once the number of insects exceeded the limit, they would fly back on their own. If they were restricted during flight, they would self-destruct. Soon, the dignitaries in the uptown mansion found that the three auspicious treasures were particularly useful. Even though hornets were not intelligent, they had their own unique ability in smell recognition. They would not attack the residents, and they could even collect honey and pollinate in their spare time. Round spiders would appear in the yard to catch pests. The vines were loosening the soil in the garden, not only improving their living environment, but also helping to improve the surrounding ecosystem. This time, the rich and powerful people who had spent money all sighed that they had picked up a treasure. The Wasteland Gang spent thousands of yuan on security alone every month. It was a good deal to pay 50,000 yuan for life. Now, even the money for pest control, gardeners, and garden maintenance had been saved. Naturally, he felt that he had made a profit. Under this psychological effect, the installation of the three lucky treasures became more and more widespread. At the same time, every time the staff installed a house, they would call Kylan Hall to report. And on the huge map of the Sand City, the installation site would be fixed with a pushpin. As far as the eye could see, the vast majority of the residential areas in the entire uptown had already been installed with the three auspicious treasures. Chapter 298 Individual Heroism, No. Link looked at the map of the entire Sand City. The range of the Kylan Hall's radiation was getting wider and wider. He finally smiled. The more influence he had now, the more control he would have when the Sand City was in complete chaos. The only thing that disappointed Lin K was that the sales of the pet hamster, the three treasures of luck, and the exposure of the manager's identity did not increase his influence at all. It seems that unless I unify the entire slum area or do something earth-shattering, it will be difficult to increase my influence for the time being. Link's influence in the Sand City had completely surpassed the leaders of the other forces in the slums. He was only slightly weaker than General Alonso, Moros, and Derek from the underground black market. He was on par with some of the prestigious families in the uptown. Boss, I saw that even the United Pharmaceutical Company bought a few batches of the 3 auspicious treasures, saying that it's to provide security forces for their pharmaceutical factory. I don't think it's a big deal for other forces to buy it, but this joint pharmaceutical company has outstanding achievements in pharmaceutical and genetic engineering. They won't buy it and do some tests and analysis to copy the technology, will they? Fred asked nervously. Ever since he was in charge of the commercial street, he had been exposed to many commercial spies and heard of technical theft cases. It's fine, they won't be able to analyze anything. Link replied confidently. 1.0 version, the level of science and technology on Wasteland Planet was extremely average. At the genetic level, mutation could only be achieved, but the type and direction of the mutation could not be controlled. It was only when they came into contact with the first version of version 2.0 that they would be able to touch on more advanced subjects. The level of technology would increase rapidly, and they would be able to control the direction and extent of the genetic mutation. They would even be able to master the simple space folding technology and have things like foldable backpacks. Although the Academy was behind the United Pharmaceutical Company, Link didn't have to worry about them copying the technology with his understanding of the plot and game. After all, in the age of the universe, countless civilizations and forces had tried their best to break the bug race's bloodline and control methods so that the vast insect race would work for them. However, Link had never heard of anyone who had succeeded. Of course, Emperor Paul, who controlled the Zerg nest, was an exception. With Link's confirmation, Fred finally heaved a sigh of relief and stopped worrying about it. All right, don't think about those things. It's time to eat. Link asked Fred to join them at the dining hall. However, just as Fred opened the door, Bob ran over from the yard. His eyes were as fierce as an enraged bull. Boss, it's bad. The man we sent to Matthew's guild to persuade them to surrender has been injured. Link's head buzzed when he heard the news. Messengers were not to be killed when 2 armies fought, but the Matthew Upanishad actually ignored the common consensus among the gangs in the slums and attacked. Is this Matthew crazy? Fred was dumbfounded. Hurry up and get our injured brothers to the backyard for treatment, said Link, quickly pulling Bob. Then, he watched Bob's figure leave quickly and sighed. They are officially declaring war on Kylan Hall, hee. Link snapped out of his daze and said to Fred, since Matthew wants to use Kylan Hall as a stepping stone, let's see if he has the ability. Go and inform your 7 subordinate gangs. Kylan Hall is preparing to attack Matthew's society. Each gang will send 10 people. At the same time, order Team 7 and Team 8 to gather intelligence in the Matthew Guild's territory and make preparations for the battle. Fred immediately got to work after receiving the order. The Kylan Hall came to take in the Mashiu Guild, but they were beaten back by the people of the Mashiu Guild. This explosive news was like radiation, and it quickly spread throughout the entire Shandu. When the major forces received the news at the first moment, everyone was left speechless. Matthew's gang only had about 40 members, which was considered average among the small gangs. Like many other gang leaders in the slums, Matthew had only thought of establishing his own organization after seeing how Link had become famous. Logically speaking, now that the Kylan Hall was recruiting, they should be beating gongs, beating drums, and setting off firecrackers. They would join in with joy and become the subordinates of their idols. But the actions of the Matthew Society were beyond everyone's expectations. They had actually injured the people sent by Kylan Hall. According to the rules of the slums, messengers were not to be killed in a battle between 2 armies. Matthew would madly injure the people from Kylan Hall. This was the signal to start a war. Next, Matthew would have to pay the price for his provocation. At the same time, uptown, Moro's building. Moros was the first to receive the news. He was elated. Kohler finally can't take it anymore. Tai, the Heavenly King of the East District, who was standing on the side reporting the news, was stunned. Then, he suddenly realized and said, Matthew, is it Kohler? Morose took a puff of his cigar and said, "That's right. Ever since I started paying attention to Link, I've been discussing Link's development with Kohler. I've always praised Link, which has aroused Kohler's competitive spirit." Hearing this, Tai Yi laughed. "Ha ha ha, Kohler, that blockhead. He's actually jealous and has even aroused his competitive spirit?" Moro's expression remained the same. He put out the cigar in the ashtray and put it aside. "What's there to make a fuss about? She's always been by my side, so her nature has always been suppressed. I saw that his competitive spirit had been aroused and felt that this was a good thing, so I made a bet with him. Let him go to the slums alone and hide his name. Let's see if he can be as famous as Link in the same time." "No wonder I haven't seen Kohler for a while," Tai said in surprise. "I thought you sent him on a mission. It turns out he's going to start a new business." Morose sat on the boss's chair and enjoyed the bustling night view of the uptown from the top floor of the Morose building. The lights were brilliant, and he seemed to be reminiscing about the past. "Tai, do you still remember how Kohler killed his way out of the slums?" "Yes." Tai, the Heavenly King of the East District, nodded slightly. "One man, one dagger, and he killed all the forces in the slums. He killed so many people that no one dared to go against him. In the end, he stood out and was appreciated by the boss, becoming his personal secretary. Do you think Kohler will win this time?" Tai thought for a moment, chuckled, and replied with only 4 words, I'm anxious, I'm anxious. There's no other way. I only gave him 2 months to catch up to Link, but now that 1.5 months have passed, he doesn't have much time left. But recently, Link's extraordinary achievements in business and the media have made him even more famous than the leaders of the major forces in the slums. He's even close to Alongso and me to become the #1 figure of the younger generation. If Kohler continues to develop at the same pace as he did 6 years ago, do you think he will succeed?" "It won't work," Tai said empathetically. "The gap will only grow bigger." "I understand. He's taking advantage of the Kylan Hall's recruitment to directly fight to the death." Morose heaved a long sigh. His deep eyes seemed to have seen the future. But he doesn't know that this is no longer the era of individual heroism. Chapter 299 How can I not go fishing when I often walk by the river, 2 in 1. Tai fell silent. Kohler was not a person who would admit defeat. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to kill his way out of the slums 6 years ago and get the boss' attention and use him. There was no way for Kohler to surpass Link through conventional means, so he could only use the most common way of conflict between gangs in the slums to solve the problem. As long as he killed or defeated Link in the guild war, he and the Matthew Guild he established would step on Link and his Kylan Hall to become the new focus of the Sand City, completing the bet with Morose. But if it had been a 1v1 between Kohler and Link before, Tai would have thought that Kohler had a slight chance of winning. Now, there was a supervisor in the Kylan Hall who was as powerful as Link. With all the cards in hand, Kohler had no chance of winning. Even if it ended in a draw, as long as Link could retreat safely, Kohler's reputation would not surpass Link's. But I have a feeling that things aren't that simple. Link was someone who liked to maximize his profits. He was like a gambler who liked to gamble with a small stake. However, he was always 100% confident in winning. Morose could even see through Link's style after analyzing his actions over the past 3 months. This time, Matthew had taken the initiative to provoke him. Link would definitely not let this rare opportunity go. "Boss, shouldn't we use this opportunity to teach Link a lesson? His power, territory, and reputation have all exceeded the level of a gang in the slums. If this goes on, there's no one in the slums who can match him." Tai was also from the slums, so he knew about Moro's policies. Morose raised his hand to stop Tai. "Don't panic. It's been a long time since I felt that things were out of my control. I'm curious about what Link is going to do next." Morose looked at Tai and said, "Besides, didn't you, the Heavenly King of the East District, already make a move?" What's the result? Tai was rendered speechless. Indeed, in the one-on-one battle with the supervisor, he was at a disadvantage and was even injured by the other party. The 4 heavenly kings under Moros each guarded their own territory. He was the king of the East District and was in charge of the slums. A defeated general was nothing to be proud of. Naturally, he had no right or reason to criticize Link. Any news related to this matter will be sent here immediately. You can go down now. Yes. Tai slowly left the office and immediately changed into a swift and decisive attitude. He took out his mobile phone and began to arrange for his men to collect intelligence. At the same time, the 7th team that had been sent out to investigate had also sent back the news of Link's investigation to their respective forces. As the saying goes, before the troops and horses move, the rations go first. The role of the reconnaissance team was to accurately grasp the number and strength distribution of the Maoist Society's thugs. This meant that Link was going to kill Matthew. Ever since Link took over the Kylan Hall, there had never been any large-scale violence. Anyone with eyes could tell that Link was trying to set an example. Since the Kylan Hall didn't take action, many people in the slums seemed to have forgotten that this was one of the 6 halls under the water transport gang. It was the Kylan Hall that had publicly recruited experts in Shandu and was a gathering of heroes. In an instant, the gazes of the entire Shita were focused on the slums. Matthew's society wasn't very powerful, but he was the first one who dared to challenge the Kylan Hall's authority. Furthermore, Matthew's experience was very similar to Link's. He had outstanding individual combat power and was agile in assassination. Freemasonry, St. Maria Cathedral. The red-robed archbishops, elders, and pastors from small gangs, all of the management, were gathered together. The holy light from the church's dome shone on them, covering their white robes with a layer of soft holy light. However, there was a dark-skinned fat man who was different from the rest. He stood up and said indignantly, "This time, the Freemasonry must make a move." I knew Link. It wasn't easy for someone to provoke him, so Link would definitely appear personally to intimidate them. "We're going to annihilate the Matthew gang, which only has 30 to 40 people. The Kylan Hall will never bring more than 50 people. This is a great opportunity for us to assassinate Link. The Kylan Hall is extremely domineering." After Link took over, they basically didn't solve any problems through gang wars. In terms of business, he found another manager who was equally overbearing and continued to nibble away at our economy through a monopoly. If we continue to let it go, the Shang clan will side with Kylan Hall and we will collapse without a fight. This is a rare opportunity. If we don't grasp it, we'll all be like frogs in warm water, without any room for resistance. Forbes' words were very provocative. It was like a black devil, planting a seed of evil in the hearts of these emissaries who believed in the holy light. But Link is extremely powerful. He has a record of fighting dozens of people alone and has an endless stream of strange skills. Can we guarantee that we can kill him? If we let Link escape back to the Kylan Hall and make a comeback, then our Freemasonry will suffer Link's thunderous revenge. An elder in red said. Forbes was quick-witted and immediately replied, "We're not the only ones who want Link dead. Link could fight dozens of people alone, but he was still a human. All humans had weaknesses and strength. If he could unite all the forces he could and all the forces attacked together, he would definitely be killed. If we let this opportunity go to waste, we'll only be waiting for death in the future." Forbes thought that everyone was in low spirits and immediately took out a report. This is this month's sales performance. Although it was still growing, it was very small compared to last month. If this continued, the economy of the slums would all flow to the areas under Kylan Hall's rule. The young seedlings in the slums also worship Kylan Hall. With the economic decline, we can't recruit more people. Our end is like an incurable patient, and we can only wait for the virus to eat away at our vitality. Forbes' expression suddenly turned cold. He turned to the Archcardinal and said, "And, when the time comes, you can bow your heads and submit, leaving your lives. However, I'm a traitor to the Kylan Hall. Link will never let me live. So whether you go or not, I'll bring my men to snipe them. The Arch-Cardinal's body trembled, and the eyes of the other upper echelons were filled with panic. Ever since the Forbes came, the economy had been booming. Whether it was bishops, elders, or priests, their income had increased a lot. They had just lived a rich life for 2 months. If Forbes died, they would have to go back to the days of poverty. Moreover, their income would become lower and lower under the suppression of Kylin Hall, and they would fall into a slow death. Even the mass emissary stood up and advised, Elder Afu, I think this matter needs to be taken into consideration. There's no time. The chance is gone. We should contact the other forces and use this chance to kill Link. The red-robed bishop looked at the other elders and priests, and many of them had eagerness in their eyes. As long as they could take down Link, they could divide up the Kylin Hall's territory. At that time, everyone could get a share of the loot and also get rid of a big problem. Even if it was risky, it was worth a try. It seems that most of you already have the answer, hum hum hum, the deep voice of the red-robed cardinal echoed in the St. Maria's Cathedral. At the same time, the same thing was happening to Dasaki and the Secret Alliance. Alan, who had a mysterious and friendly nature, was already one of the main pillars of Dasarkon. He had been handpicked by the current leader to be a talent to be trained as a Magus King. People called him the young Magus King. At this moment, he was standing on the God-inviting stage, using the same bewitching language to stir the nerves of others. This is a once-in-a-thousand-years opportunity. Ever since Kylin Hall started the Fragrant Pig Banquet, where eating it can strengthen one's body, there have been fewer and fewer people coming to the upper city to invite people to dance, communicate with shamans, and perform natural rituals. Even the business of the shops under our rule has declined. The Freemasonry has Forbes to control the business, but we don't have such a business talent. If you don't give me this chance, it'll be really difficult in the future. Alan didn't need to elaborate on the Kylin Hall's hostility. All the believers of the Dasaka shaman god understood it. The news, newspapers, television, and even the gossip people talked about every day were almost all about the Kylin Hall. The Kylin Hall was still one of the 6 branches of the water transportation gang, and its influence had already changed any major force in the slums. If this continued to develop, it would swallow up the other forces sooner or later. It was fine if they were rich, but Kylin Hall used public opinion to bewitch the people and had a great appeal at the bottom. Young men were proud to be able to enter Kylin Hall and scoffed at other forces with disdain. If this went on, the forces would not be able to absorb good young blood, and they would gradually sink and become weaker. Alan was right. This was a rare opportunity. The spies in the Kylin Hall had also sent news that Link had arranged for Teams 7 and 8 to spy on Matthew from all directions. It was clear that he was preparing to personally lead the army and use his strength to kill the chicken to warn the monkeys. They could use this opportunity to kill Link and remove the threat. They might even have a chance to divide up the Kylin Hall's territory. The risk and reward of this deal were completely proportional. Just as Alan was waiting for everyone's reply, the shaman elder with a totem on his body walked out and said with his phone, "Shaman King, a call from the Freemasonry's red-robed bishop." A call from the Freemasonry. Everyone in Dasaki was dumbfounded. Dasaki, the Freemasonry, and the Hidden Alliance were all sworn enemies. In addition to power struggles, there were also conflicts of faith and believers. They had always been like fire and water. Now, the red-robed cardinal of the Freemasonry had personally called, and no one knew what had happened. "Give me the phone." The Shaman King hurriedly reached out to take the phone. "Hello, Shaman King. I have a collaboration that I would like to discuss with you." The Hidden Alliance. The meeting of the core members of the vampires. "Did something big happen for you to wake me up?" Count Dracula slowly rose from the pool of blood. His skin was as white and smooth as a baby's. Whoosh! Count Dracula's suit cloak, which had been hanging in the closet, moved on its own even though there was no wind, and he was completely dressed in an instant. Mr. Kong took a few steps forward and walked to the front. Link is preparing to attack the new power in the slums, Matthew. I think this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We must take this opportunity to encircle Link and destroy the Kylin Hall. The core members have their own opinions on my suggestion. We couldn't reach a consensus, so we woke you up. Please make a decision. Count Dracula slowly floated down from the sky and sat on the golden throne. According to the information you provided, the water transportation gang wants Link to take back the territory that once belonged to White Crane Hall. Now that the Kylin Hall was growing stronger by the day, they would definitely act as a warning to the other forces after personally dealing with the Matthew Society. If I'm not mistaken, the Kylin Hall's target will be the Secret Alliance. Since the enemy's target will be us sooner or later, how can we miss this opportunity to kill them? Count Dracula spoke slowly, and the vampires who agreed with Mr. Kong's plan were all overjoyed. However, this still depends on whether the heavens and Link give us face. If you did it during the day, then we'll just pretend that nothing happened. The vampires' faces stiffened. The Count had mentioned a decisive factor: time. The barons and viscounts were still afraid of sunlight. If Link chose to attack during the day, the Hidden Alliance would not have any high-level combatants. They had to wait until night, when the vampires would be stronger under the moonlight. The core members, such as the barons and viscounts, could be mobilized. Only then would they have a chance of killing Link. The Water Transportation Gang. Azure Dragon Hall. Green Dragon's boss had also received the information from his spy. Tell me, what do you think of this matter? Green Dragon's boss looked at Zhao Heshan, the tuberculosis-stricken man, who was coughing. As the hall master of the Hall of Venomous Snakes and the white paper fan of the entire Inland Water Gang, Zhao Heshan was full of wisdom and could easily use vicious tricks. Zhao Heshan coughed and said hoarsely, "Since the boss asked for my opinion, then he has the intention to make a move." Green Dragon's boss didn't try to avoid the question and said directly, "Right now, the entire Shadow knows about the Kylin Hall and Link, but they don't know about the Water Transportation Gang or my boss. He's too popular, and if he continues to develop like this, the Water Transportation Gang will no longer be able to tolerate him. Then how far does boss want to go? Should I knock on it, or should I just push him away?" Zhao Heshan made a gesture of slitting his throat. You know. The position of the hall leader was not originally reserved for Link. If he can disappear, then we can take over the Kylin Hall's assets and business. This influence and development will become the capital for me to continue to be the leader. Zhao Heshan chuckled as he understood what the boss of Green Dragon meant. That's easy. Since Link is already investigating the Matthew Society, he must be ready to go personally. Arrange a few snipers near the Matthew Guild and ambush them when Link makes his move. Then, we'll shift the blame to the other forces and take control of the Kylin Hall immediately. We won't give the others a chance to react." The boss of Green Dragon played with the two Tai Chi balls in his hands and frowned. "A group of snipers, is that enough?" Zhao Heshan turned to look at the 9-patterned dragon behind him and smiled evilly. "Don't we still have him? As long as we put on the mask and hide our identities, everyone will only think that it was our enemy who killed Link. They won't think that we're the ones behind it. However, I still have to drag Lei Jizi into this matter. This guy is very smart, he probably can see through our plan. To avoid being suspected and criticized in the future, it's better to drag him down with us." "We'll do as you say." Green Dragon's boss nodded slightly. A piece of information. All of a sudden, the 4 major forces in the slums of Shandul were all mobilized. A large-scale assassination operation was about to begin. Chapter 300. When the blood moon appears, there will be slaughter. The Kylin Hall was also in an anxious atmosphere. Everyone was busy running back and forth, and the entire front yard was filled with the sound of footsteps and the phone, like busy ants. Information kept flowing in from the outside. The staff at the registration counter compiled it into a form and presented it to Link. "Boss, the information has been gathered. Link picked up the information on the table and started reading. A brief introduction to the life of Matthew's boss and his achievements. Matthew knew the combat statistics. A detailed map of the Matthew's influence area. Matthew would provide additional information. Every piece of information was as detailed as possible. After reading it, Link had a basic grasp of the Matthew Society. This information template was set up by Link earlier. Spies only needed to fill in the corresponding information according to the different sections listed, and finally summarize it to the Kylan Hall to sort out a complete information. This guy's path to fortune is indeed quite similar to mine. It's just a pity that this kid's path is narrow. Link had read from the information that Matthew had also gained great power from his sudden appearance. First, he had killed the leader of a small gang with more than a dozen people. Then, he had used his power to deter the other gangs and formed a new gang. After that, he had gathered the idle people near the garbage dump and finally formed the Matthew gang. From the information, it could be seen that the quality of the members of the Matthew Society was uneven, and they were basically all rogues who bullied the weak and feared the strong. It was all thanks to Matthew's personal strength that he had developed to this point after annexing the water treatment plant. If it was Link, he would definitely start raising the quality of the gang members. Otherwise, the combat power of more than 40 level 5 gangsters would be really worrying. When he was in the Link gang, he had held internal competitions among the gang members. The first batch of core members were already between level 10 and 13. Both their HP and skills had improved significantly. This time, Link was going to teach all the forces in the slums a good lesson. The tactic of using numbers was outdated. Link looked at the pencil and drew a circle on the detailed map. This is the place. We'll start the battle here tonight. If Fu was still in Kylan Hall, he would definitely exclaim in surprise that this place was very familiar, because this was the three-way street inn they had stayed in for the first time since they came to the slums of Shadu. One of the roads led to the garbage dump and the water treatment plant, and the other led to the main road, which was an entrance. Bob, go pick 40 brothers. Come with me to Matthew's club tonight. Bob immediately jumped up from his chair and said, Boss, just leave this to us. You don't have to deal with a small society like the Matthew gang, do you? Link glanced at Bob, who shivered in fear. He remembered his boss's famous quote, "Are you teaching me how to do things?" He immediately rushed out of the door and did as he was told. After Bob left, the macaw sneakily stuck its head out of the door. No one. I'll come in then. Without waiting for Link's permission, the macaw swaggered in. Are you going to personally lead the army today? Link thought that the macaw was reminding him to be careful, so he nodded. However, the macaw's expression twisted together, and it was filled with confusion. Then, before you leave tonight, can you write a transfer letter in advance? If I die, I can still inherit the Kylan Hall's inheritance and lead everyone to take revenge for you. If there's no letter of transfer, Kylan Hall will most likely be divided up by many forces. Link chimed in. I think I have time to write the transfer agreement. I should think about what spices I should use to stew the parrot tonight. The macaw shuddered and walked to Link's side with a smile. It flapped its wings on Link's back and said, "Hee, I was just joking, don't take it seriously. But then again, if you let Team 7 participate in the investigation, wouldn't all the forces in the slums know that you are going to attack Matthew? Aren't you afraid that these forces will plot against you behind your back?" The moment the macaw opened its mouth, it knew that it was an experienced bird. After all, when it first heard the news, it was still thinking about whether to throw a ball of bird poop at Link in the chaos. This is your main purpose for coming here today, right? Link stared at the macaw. The macaw's eyes darted left and right as it tried to avoid the topic. What are you talking about? I was just taking a walk and happened to walk over here. Actually, you could have been a little more steady. If you had brought everyone along and directly attacked, that Matthew or whatever would have definitely gotten a GG. Tell me, how did the flying dragon lose? Link first looked at the time on his watch, then glanced at the macaw and said, I deliberately sent Team 7 to carry out the investigation so that all the forces in the slums know that we are going to take action. The Kylin Hall was developing faster and faster, and they had already left the other forces far behind. Their sense of crisis was getting stronger and stronger. Instead of waiting for them to join forces to attack the Kylin Hall, why don't we take this opportunity to lure them out and beat them down? The macaw used its wings to give a thumbs up. Hi, it's really high. Link, you're so handsome, with sword-like eyebrows and big eyes. I didn't expect you to play this trick. As the saying goes, those who play tricks are all dirty-minded. That's all I said, Link said expressionlessly. Do you have more? Don't stop. I have never seen such a shameless person. The macaw was flustered and exasperated as it flapped its wings and left. Link's skin was getting thicker by the day. If she stayed any longer, she would die of anger. Wait, stop right there. I have an important job for you, Ran. The afterglow of the setting sun was like Cinderella who was reluctant to leave the ball in the early morning. She fled in a panic and fell below the horizon. The moon was bright tonight. The originally cold and white moon seemed to be covered in a layer of red gauze, turning into a blood moon. Link walked from the backyard to the front yard. He looked up at the moon and muttered to himself, it's said that when the blood moon appears, there will be a massacre. It seems that this saying is correct. The three deacons had serious expressions on their faces as they followed behind Link. They looked like iron-blooded bodyguards. In the main hall were the 40 members carefully selected by Bob. At this moment, they had their hands behind their backs straight, and their eyes firm. Link stood in front of everyone and scanned them one by one. Are you guys scared? I'm not afraid. What's our goal this time? Eradicate the Matthew Upanishad. I won't say more. The brothers who were injured in the afternoon have been treated in the backyard. They are now alive and kicking. I believe you have all seen it. The eyes of the 40 members were burning. The brothers who were shot and carried in the afternoon were on the verge of death. After being sent to the backyard for treatment, they ate 5 bowls of rice in one go that night. They didn't look like people who had half a foot in the door of death. Although they didn't know what method their boss had used, if such a serious injury could be treated, they would definitely be saved even if they were shot. The fear of death in their hearts had disappeared with the rescue of their brothers. What warriors were the scariest? There was only one answer: warriors who were not afraid of death were the scariest. All right, now, let's go. With a wave of his hand, the 40 people turned around under Bob's lead. Fred and Quentin were following behind him, but Link stopped them. You two, stop. You still have a mission, Ran.